All right, guys, we are live. This is the UFC Nashville uh, recap show live on the Sherdog Radio Network. I want to shout out to all the people in the chat. Thanks for coming. I know it's a busy night for combat sports, so I appreciate you guys spending some time with us. My name is your host. My name is Keith Shillan. Joining me, as always, is the senior editor of Sherdog.com, the great Ben Duffy. Ben, how you doing, man?
I'm doing really well. I rolled back into town from San Antonio and the PFL playoffs earlier today, took a little nap, and rocked to this UFC card. It's been a good day.
Nice. I just want to throw this out there. I'm actually on call right now, guys. So my phone might ring and I might have to leave, and Ben will do this without me. Hopefully between now and that phone call, Cory Sandhagen doesn't take down Rob Font. But they were in Nashville, Tennessee, Ben, which is what I believe they call it the home of country music.
I believe they do it. I mean, it's the Music City.
Music City.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
All right. I can't wait.
You gotta love the guy in New England having the cowboy hat, but the guy in Texas doesn't.
Nope.
Ben, before we get into it, there's some kind of boxing match going on right now. Who do you think's gonna win? Is Jake Paul gonna win, or is Nate Diaz gonna win?
I think Jake Paul's gonna win. I mean, that's my no analysis pick, but considering he's younger, he's more active, he's bigger, and Diaz probably isn't taking it very seriously. All the variables seem to point to Jake Paul for me.
Yeah, they're actually making their entrances right now. We'll try to chat it up with you guys if you want. Keep us. Obviously, I'm not going to be watching it. I have it on the side, so I might peek over a little bit. But if you guys want to put in the chat, how you score the rounds, different things, go for it. Yeah, you give me a boxer taking on a MMA guy who I think this is his boxing debut. Has been. He is. The ghost of his former self, taking on a guy who's much bigger than him, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is always convenient. Yeah, I got to go with Jake Paul too, but I couldn't care less who wins. So, we can't put it off any longer. Main event. I thought we had a pretty good card on paper. I thought the main event was going to be I didn't think it was going to be banging. I thought it would be a one-sided affair. It was a one-sided affair. I just didn't expect to go at how it was, as Cory Sandhagen won a unanimous decision over Rob Font. I would say wrestle heavy, but pretty much all wrestling, as he got, 7 or 8 takedowns. I was at wrestling practice today with my son, and I don't think I saw as many takedowns in their practice. The entire team that I saw Cory Sandhagen taking out Rob Font.
I don't know how many takedowns Cory Sandhagen got, but I know he didn't need that many, because every time he got one, it was pretty much curtains for that round. This fight was a clinic in top control, specifically in top control for a tall, long-limbed fighter. Just part of it, I'm sure we'll talk about it. Part of it, has to be down to Rob Font and kind of a failure to do much different from one round to the next. But Sandhagen did pretty much a perfect job at how you manage top control when you are a kind of long, thin guy. Just really brilliant stuff. The crowd was letting him have it. And there's part of me that's always willing to dismiss the crowd to a certain extent. It's a bunch of drunk dudes. Like maybe 1 in 5 of them has ever trained, and they just want to see some blood. But I will say that the fact that Sandhagen didn't really threaten with anything more than just top control until the 5th round had me a little frustrated as well.
What's more impressive, Sandhagen's takedowns or Ben's ability to stay on track while I'm adjusting my hat? And not noticing I'm adjusting it.
I'm noticing it like it was on sideways and kind of down. Looked like you got rained on for a minute. It was quite a show.
That's why it's so beat up. So I've had this cowboy hat for years. If you recall my story a couple of weeks ago, I went to Luke Combs, and of course I had to play the part and wear the cowboy hat with my daughters. And the rain beat up the hat pretty good, pretty much to the point it's too floppy now. You have this weird thing going right here.
Yeah, you look more like an old timey prospector or something. Like you should have a pick or something to be coming out of a mine. Like,
yeah, man, I can like this. I can be like a scarecrow or something. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to fix it, but it's not happening. I'm about as frustrated as Rob Font was today on the bottom of like Crocodile Dundee. That's right, it does. Nice job. All right. So one thing I'll say about this. So he did say that he thought he injured his arm. He said, I think I told him a bicep or something. I think that might be a little bit of exaggeration, but he said he hurt his arm. That could be the case. It would make a lot of sense to turn it into a wrestling match. If that's the case, if you can't really punch. One thing I'll say about I'm giving up on the cowboy hat. It was fun for a minute. Cory Sandhagen, obviously the first thing is to get a win in any way possible. Change of opponent, a couple weeks in advance. His last fight, what I was so impressive about him against Marlon Vera was all of his variety. I said variety in striking was really standing out. Today, now the variety becomes even more because now he's going to be considered more of a wrestling threat. I thought his entries were fast. They weren't the most technical. I mean, he was shooting like high crotches and singles, head on the inside singles and stuff. Shooting head on the outside instead of the inside. Mm-hmm. Not the best technique. But I've always thought that Sandhagen was an underrated wrestler. I think we saw that. I think he had the right opponent in Rob Font. Has always been a poor defensive wrestler. Font is a good fighter, but he always seems when he comes up against the upper echelon of the division, he always falls short. But I think today was even worse because not only did he fall short, but he gave a clear avenue of victory where, okay, you're fighting Rob Font. I can't imagine his next opponent not looking to wrestle him.
I completely agree. And I don't think we had really seen Font's wrestling tested by a determined wrestler in a long time. Like the last good wrestler he fought that really wanted to take him down was Ricky Simon. And that was three plus years ago, I want to say. Since then, I mean, he fought a couple guys who could wrestle, but neither of them really pushed the issue. Everyone seemed willing to exchange with him on the feet, which in the case of Font is definitely giving Font his best possible chance to win the fight. I mean, kudos to Sandhagen and his handlers for not going that route, because there's every possibility Sandhagen could have won a Cory Sandhagen style kickboxing match against Rob Font. Good reach, good jab, good footwork, better variety of strikes, including his kicks. He could have gone that route, but he would have risked getting plunked or risked getting caught with one nasty punch that cut him real bad. And all of a sudden it's a weird fight and everything's up in the air. This was risk management. And yeah, it wasn't super entertaining, but Sandhagen fought like a guy who knows that there's a very good chance that there will be a vacant title in his division sometime before the end of this calendar year.
Yeah. Another thing that Rob Font kept doing, he was pressuring Sandhagen, but the problem is he was pressuring and he was just setting up that's like single, sometimes snatch single. It's like, dude, how about switch stances? See if you can shoot on the other side. Rob Font probably has a lot more experience striking from the southpaw position than Cory Sandhagen has wrestling shooting to the left side. Because every one of his entries were to the right side.
Yeah.
Switch it up. Someone put in the chat, I'll throw it up here. He shot for a takedown in the 5th round. It was funny because Tyson Chartier, his head coach, was saying, do anything. I don't think he meant go for a takedown. I think he meant flying knee, spinning back fists.
So the next talk is, okay, I meant almost anything, Rob.
Yeah. The only thing would have been worse if he just pulled guard. It,
Ryan Hall over in Sandhagen's corner is, I know that move. Shit.
Yeah. How'd you think of the referee in? Because there was moments, and you know, I'm not one of these guys that don't call for stand-ups like very often. But in this fight, I thought there could have been a couple. Not saying, I think you would have set him up and would put him right back down and you kind of reset. But there was a couple of times where Sandhagen really was just holding on, not doing much on top. I thought they could have did a couple of stand-ups. Agree or disagree?
I agree, especially kind of in the middle rounds. I remember thinking in rounds 3 and 4, there were moments where it had been 60 full seconds without a significant change of position. Neither guy was in a dominant position, and I would have been okay with Herzog standing him up. I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the fight very much, considering how effortless all of Sandhagen's takedowns had been. I think we'd just be talking about him being like 13 for 13, 7 for 7. But yeah, I'm like you. I normally am slower than most refs to stand a fight up. I just think if the fighter on the bottom wants to fight up, he should learn how to get up. But I wouldn't have hated it this time.
Yeah. One thing I kept when I was watching this fight, I kept thinking the same thing. Like, imagine if he was fighting Merab. Like, could you imagine what Merab would have done to Font?
Oh yeah, I mean,
this is gonna be the quickest. I think we're gonna go over our main event because there isn't really too much to talk about. And those watching, I'm not lying. Nate Diaz might get knocked out in the very first round. Like Jake Paul is beating the shit out of, like, trying to knock him out in the first minute of the first round. He's teeing off and kicking the shit out of him. Can I rant about boxing for a second?
Please.
How dumb some things in boxing are. One, the fact that they have 12 rounds or 10 rounds. Wouldn't you go with an odd number of rounds right away to kind of like help you not have a draw?
Yeah, that would seem to make
obviously
sense.
That doesn't guarantee it, but
doesn't guarantee it. And I mean, draws obviously still happen in boxing, but the fact that any knockdown is an automatic point also throws a little more chaos into the mix. But yeah, an odd number of rounds would seem to make sense.
Yeah, the other thing, and Jake Paul's teeing off on him so much that maybe he's rope-a-doping him and trying to gas him up. But anyways, the other thing that I've always thought was really like so backwards, if a boxer is teeing off on a guy and he takes a knee, he gets 10 seconds to recover and the fight continues.
Yep.
But if the referee jumps in, but they got the guy going down, the fight's over. It's like, wait a minute. It's somehow better with me going down than it is if I stayed up and continued to get punched. Like, shouldn't the stepping in be okay, we're giving you 10 seconds, like we're counting this as a knockdown?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Like, I remember when Conor McGregor got knocked out by Floyd Mayweather. I'm like, yeah, he should have just took a knee.
Yep.
Like, how backwards is that? Anyways, just whatever. I did put Jake Paul, Nate Diaz in the comments in the bottom, so we have to talk about it a little bit. Plus, it's way more entertaining than talk about this. Like, this main event, there's not too much to talk about. I mean, there wasn't a lot of action. There was a lot of wrestling. Rob Font's a terrible defense wrestler. Cory Sandhagen's a pretty good one. One thing Cory Sandhagen said is, he said, I'll be there in Boston in what is it, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And I'm next. Is he though? Like, could he have gotten a dominant win in the main event and moved back? Because I think it's possible.
He didn't do himself any favors in that regard. So he's clearly banking on himself already being at or near the front of the line.
I mean, how long is Merab out for?
I do not remember.
Because if Merab is not out for long, and of course, if Aljamain wins and Merab, does he defend? All this stuff that they're adamant that not. I mean, they were sitting next to each other tonight. Will they fight each other? I don't know, but if there's somebody else comes up and gets a huge win, like, I definitely could see them jumping Cory Sandhagen. But I also could see, and this is the argument I would make if I was, in the room, I'd say, yeah, but we've seen, like, this is the one boring fight the Cory Sandhagen's been. Usually he's super exciting.
Yeah, Merab. Last he said, thought he'd be ready by late September.
Oh, late September. Oh yeah. Okay. It's next month. Okay, so yeah, I think to me, if O'Malley wins, it's Merab all day. Now, if Sterling wins, that obviously makes it a little shaky. He might have to do a rematch, or he might be moving up. Who knows what his plan is? But so I'm gonna go right to the matchmaking.
Yeah,
because I'm not giving Sandhagen the next fight. I'm just gonna put him against who he's supposed to fight, and Nurmagomedov, the guy who was supposed to originally, who he's originally supposed to fight tonight. Like I'm doing that, and that's like a number one contender match. Because you could sell a Nurmagomedov. You could always sell that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd put down next for Sandhagen, wait until after Sterling O'Malley in a couple of weeks. But if we want to just automatically put him into the matchup he was supposed to be in against Umar Nurmagomedov, that works for me.
Yeah.
Just if Sterling wins and immediately announces he's going to move up, then I think probably Sandhagen versus Merab for the vacant title later this year makes the most sense.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. But obviously, we won't know until Boston what's going to happen. I can announce this now. Ben will be doing that show solo. I will be in Boston for Sherdog covering the fights. So Boston's probably about, I don't know, depends, 45 minutes to an hour from my house. So I will be there. Rob Font, I feel the same exact way as I felt about Sandhagen. He's fought everybody in the division. He was supposed to fight Sandhagen. I wouldn't feel very confident if I'm Rob Font's team, but that's the fight I would do.
I think Font maybe even needs a step back from that at this point. He's lost 3 of 4, and before that, his last 2 wins were over Marlon Moraes and Cody Garbrandt, both of whom were shot even at the time. Like all of a sudden, Font looks like he's had a shaky last couple of years when you look at it. I think Font's next fight should be more about what the other guy deserves. Like we're going to talk about Kyler Phillips in a little bit. I think Phillips versus Font makes sense. I think Mario Batista, if he beats Garbrandt in a couple weeks, that works. Batista's on a good streak. He deserves a top 10 type opponent, which, I mean, Font is still, a borderline top 10 guy. Yeah, like Phillips or Batista.
Yeah, I can't imagine his team taking a fight with anybody. And the guys you're mentioning are not wrestlers, but anybody who wrestles. Like, I can't imagine that. Rob Font, and I'm not trying to diss the guy because I'm from the same area. I want this guy to be successful. I want that team to be so. Tyson Charlie is a friend of mine. I like Tyson. Mm-hmm. I like Tyson a lot. I shouldn't say a friend, but yeah, we're friendly. We've spoken. I should say speaking. We've spoken plenty of times. This is what I'll say. If Rob Font came into my son's wrestling room, he's 135 man, probably 150. He gets in that shark bait with a 150, maybe 160 pounders. Every single 150, 160 pounder in my gym beats him in wrestling. Every single one of them. Like I'm talking high school kids. Every single one of them beats him. There's not. I can't think of a single one that wouldn't beat him. There's a couple. There's a couple. I mean, there's New England champions. There's a couple All-Americans. I mean, they would tool him.
It's rough, dude, because we frequently talk about men's bantamweight as maybe the best division in the entire sport, one of the best in the entire sport. And one of the things we'll say about it is the top 15 guys there mostly do not have any glaring weaknesses. Like Font might be the only top 15 bantamweight I can think of right now who has such a glaring weakness.
Yeah.
Like who is flat out bad at something.
Yeah. Which is to be surprising because his offensive wrestling isn't too bad.
Right.
Actually underrated. We've talked about this. It's underrated. It's just his defensive wrestling is bad. So just an update on the Jake Paul Nate Diaz fight. They're in the 3rd round. It actually has turned into a pretty, from what I'm watching, it looks like a banger. they're not a lot of feeling out. They're Diaz doing what he does, marching forward, throwing his little pepper shots, and Jake Paul's kind of holding his ground, trying to throw some big haymakers. Again, I'm not watching. I'm not scoring it. Nate looked like he had a pretty good second round, but I don't know who won the round. Oh, he just got clocked with a good shot though. But he's just doing what Nate does, marching forward, throwing those things. Obviously I'm rooting for Nate. Like I've never been like a big Diaz fan, brother, but like I'm always gonna root for the MMA guy, even if they're 100 years old.
Sure.
And I'm not one of these. I'm not one of these Jake Paul haters. I don't even know. Like I like some of the things he talks about with fighter pay and all that. So I'm not one of these like I know a lot of people hate the guy. I don't know enough about the guy to hate him.
Dev brings up a good point. Most bantamweights can scramble their asses off. Like, obviously, by the second try, we could tell that Sandhagen's single leg was going to get Font on his butt every time. But it was interesting that Font pretty much just conceded the takedown as soon as his butt hit the canvas. Like the first time he tried the guillotine. After that, it was just like, oh well, time to wrap him up and guard again. Like that was interesting because there's something to be said for just continuing to keep moving. Yeah.
That's worse than getting taken down. Like make a scramble happen. We've seen guys like he was going like this overhook, and then he didn't even try to like bridge and like over under bridge. No. Yeah, really, really weird. And like he didn't even look like he was trying to like I don't know what he was trying to do on bottom. Ninja Kitty's giving me shit if I call him this fight a bang. Like I said, it's on the side. I'm peeking over it. Looks pretty good, but I see a lot of punches thrown compared to most boxing matches. But again, I'm hardly watching. I'm trying to pay attention to my boy, plus pay attention to chat, plus make sure my phone doesn't ring. But let's move on. Probably the fight that had the most. I don't want to say the most. How about this? May have the most title implications now. Jessica Andrade took on Tatiana Suarez. Tatiana Suarez won by second round submission. We don't do this often. We don't brag about our picks or anything, and especially not when a favorite is like, what was she, like negative 400? So it's like, oh, way to go. You picked Tatiana Suarez. Like, way to go on a limb. I like when we pick it like how it should go. Like, this is how I expect it. I know we talked about, I thought Tatiana, I don't know exactly the words you said, but I said, like, I think Tatiana Suarez is going to, kick her from a lot from distance. When Jessica Andrade comes forward, she's going to close distance and shoot. I thought Jessica Andrade would fight differently than she normally does because she knows she's worried about the takeover. She doesn't want to get inside. But because of that, she's eating kicks and stuff from the outside. And that's exactly what happened.
That is exactly what happened. And it's just wild, the reversal of fortune that Andrade has had in the last year or so. Just, it was always theoretical. Yeah, Andrade can be taken advantage of on the ground, but for a long time there, you had to be a Valentina Shevchenko level fighter to be able to do it. And now, I mean, she's still fighting very, very good ground fighters, but everybody seems to be able to kind of take that route to victory, at least at the level of fighters that Andrade is still facing.
Mm. Yeah. I don't know if it would have mattered against Tatiana. Like if she wasn't this, is she a shell of herself? I don't know. We'll get to that in a second. But Tatiana Suarez is she's so physically gifted. Like besides, the technique and everything there, but she is. I mean, she's big for the weight class. Obviously, she's a wrestler who knows how to wrestle, knows how to bully, knows how to use her weight right. But she's besides being big, she's got long arms, long legs. She's the wrestler with the right frame.
Yeah.
She doesn't have the traditional. She's not Sarah McMahon, short and stocky. She's long limbs. More John Jones.
Yeah.
I gotta plug my.
Just say it. Just say it. Bo
no, I'm saving it later.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, she's long. She's long, lengthy. What I love about her, I mean, when you saw her wrestling, people always think of wrestling. They always think about fast shots, and obviously that's extremely important.
Yeah.
But it's also her technique. Like when she was shooting, she was turning the corner on her entries.
Oh goodness, yes.
Before Andrade was even sprawling. I mean, that low single she hit in the first, but it was like real. I was like, wasn't even on the shin. It was on like the ankle.
Yeah.
But for her to shoot in the low single and then what they call running across the center line, the other direction of the old classic John Smith.
Yeah. I thank you. The John Smith basically spun her down and was in side control when they stopped.
It was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic.
Beautiful. That was my first note. Suarez is such a pleasure to watch wrestle. That first takedown was textbook. Yeah.
Yeah. And then even her second one, she came in with a single, a sweep single, turned the corner, got to the position, got to the, onto the hip, everything. That's how when I teach kids to wrestle, that's perfect. Because you know why? Even some of her they weren't the perfect. Yeah, and first of all, I'm peeking over here again. Again, I'm barely watching, but I don't know what Ninja Kitty's talking about. I'm watching a freaking banger right now. So I mean, I'm not, I'm not saying it's freaking Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, or something like that. But from what I'm watching,
it's good for what it is.
Yeah, it looks freaking good. And again, like I'm not scoring, so I don't know who's winning, but Nate's doing a lot better in this last couple of rounds than he did the first one. So again, he might be losing. I'm not scoring the fight. So speaking of scoring fight, I got to watch that Davy Grant fight that I said I would have weeks ago. I said I'd score it. Let me ask you this question. And I really want to almost focus on the whole strawweight division. I think the UFC needs, even though Tatiana Suarez, it seems like they're already talking about getting her next fight should be for the title and everything. I think the UFC blew it, and of course, if Weili Zhang wins, that they didn't blow it. But I thought Weili Zhang took on Yan Xiaonan. I thought that should have been the title shot instead of Amanda Lemos. Now, I'm not saying Amanda Lemos doesn't deserve it. I'm not saying Amanda Lemos isn't the better fighter between her and I'm just saying from a marketing sense, you have two top Chinese women. Why wouldn't you get that? Like you're not booking it. You take a chance that it doesn't happen, or at least it doesn't happen at those stakes of champion, challenger. I know the counter argument could be make it happen and China and everything, which I get, but you're still, the longer you put it off, the less chance it happens.
Yeah.
The dream scenario to me, if I'm the UFC, is Weili Zhang, Amanda Lemos. She defeats her, makes her, run in the title a little bit more impressive. Then she fights Yan, not Tatiana Suarez. Hopefully wins. And then you can put the Tatiana Suarez, and it almost seems like a little bit more like a super fight, especially if Tatiana Suarez, wins again. She's 12-0, and then she gets a stoppage. She's the boogie woman in the division. Everything works out to plan. Problem is, every single time you're rolling the dice, especially if you go Suarez first before Yan and she beats her. Now, I'm not saying she will. Nate just got dropped. Nate's gonna lose.
I think Suarez should kind of jump the line a little bit here, just based on she's missed so many years-long chunks of her career so far already due to injury. Right now, she appears to be in about as good a competitive shape as she ever has been. I say strike while the iron is hot. To me, having seen what she did to Andrade, there's no sense pitting her against anyone really other than the Zhang Lemos winner or Yan Xiaonan, because at least Yan will try something different. Like there's no sense in putting her against like Verna Jandiroba or something. She's just a twice as big version of a similar fighter. So for me, yeah, it's either title shot or title eliminator against Yan Xiaonan.
See, I'm gonna disagree. We don't disagree often, but I'm gonna disagree for a couple reasons. Now, of course, you're rolling the dice. You're not getting Tatiana Suarez in a title shot, and that's fine. And again, all this, Amanda Lemos may blow up everything. So I want to make that very clear. 2 weeks from now, Amanda Lemos might blow up everything. But if Weili Zhang does this, I don't know how many people in China, but it's the most populated country in the world. That's the market you've been trying to die into. By not booking that fight, to me, the two Chinese fighters. That's not the popular choice in America on this in our side of the world. probably isn't the most popular, but I think it'd be so big on that side of the world that I mean, I'm booking that. I got to book that no matter what. That's what I was doing.
I mean,
so what would I do with Tatiana Suarez? What name would I give you?
Yeah.
I'd have her fight a warm-up fight before the title fight. So I'd have, Lemos versus Zhang. Obviously, if Lemos wins, then you can do Tatiana Suarez. But say, just for the argument's sake, Weili Zhang wins. Weili Zhang versus Yan Shannon. Maybe you can even make it in China at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm doing Suarez. Now, in the meantime, Suarez she's not going to sit on the shelf. Well, who knows whether she might, but she's not going to sit on the shelf for long. You know who I'd book her against?
Who?
Verna Jandiroba.
Okay, you know what?
I'll tell you what. Because she won't lose that one.
Well, exactly. Because my next names for Andrade were going to be either Jandiroba or Tabitha Ricci. Just give the other one of those to Suarez if that's what you're bent on doing.
All right. Let me ask you this. So besides who should get the title shot and everything, let me ask you this. Oh, that's a good point. Mark Musa says Jan is 34 and Weili Zhang is 33. To me, even more reason to book him now because who knows? Definitely don't have Suarez before Jan. I think that'd be kind of crazy. I think they rolled the dice with Amanda Lemos, but not besides who deserves the title shot of this, is Tatiana Suarez the best 115-pound fighter in the world right now?
Yes.
Yeah, I think she might be. And the reason why I say this, like, who would you favor? Not favor, like I mean, like Vegas odds. Who would be a favorite over?
Nobody. Like, I think Zhang would be the closest because Zhang is a physical hoss and she has demonstrable knockout power. But even she, I think, would be a slight underdog.
Yeah, I think it'd be like a -130. That'd be the one that'd be closest. Now, Dev throws out there that Amanda Lemos is old too. Yeah, but if you don't get Amanda Lemos getting a title shot, like, so be it. Like, like you've had a whole bunch of Brazilian fighters throughout the years. How about this? Little tougher. Who would she not be favored over if she went up to 125?
I think there you start pulling out the women who are like really big, like the Tayla Santos, Valentina Shevchenko types, where I could actually see I could see Suarez either having trouble getting them down or at least getting tired trying to keep them there. Like, even if she can take down someone like Tayla Santos, well, hell, even if she can take down someone like Aaron Blanchfield, like, it's a whole different matter to keep them there than it is to kind of manage, the Jessica Andrades of the world.
See, the only person I think that would be a betting favorite over her is Valentina Shevchenko. And of course, I'm betting on Valentina Shevchenko is still the Valentina Shevchenko, the dominated division that she hasn't lost a step. The current champion, Alexa Grasso, she's already beaten. Obviously, a much different Alexa Grasso. Alexa Grasso, obviously, way better than she was back then. I could, if that fight, something happens with a couple weeks away from Valentina Shevchenko. Valentina gets hurt. They need a last minute substitution. Suarez is like, "Hey, I'm on weight. I just fought, but I'm not injured. I'm healthy. I'm fresh." Aaron Blanchfield can't pick up the phone, and Talia Santos can't pick up the phone, and all the other top fighters in the division. And it's okay. Tatiana, come save the card. I think she's the favorite.
I don't know, man. Like, I think it'd be close.
I can't imagine her, and I'm saying she would win against Grasso, but she dominated her already.
She did dominate her, and while Grasso is definitely an improved fighter, I don't know if she's night and day better in the ways that would matter in a rematch.
Yeah. I just Tatiana Suarez is a lot of fun. Obviously, we live in the moment. She beat a fighter on a 3-fight losing streak. So let's move on to Jessica Andrade for a second. Is she shot? It's a little different than is because we'll probably get to the Bulls and the Bears later, and I'm sure she'll be on one of our lists. Is her stock going down? But that's different than being shot. Is she completely shot?
She's not shot in the ways that we typically think of. Like when I think of a shot fighter, I think of Tony Ferguson. I think of Marlon Moraes, where in a vacuum and for the first minute of a fight, they look fine, but then as soon as they take any damage, you realize that their ability to recover is completely gone. Or, their gas tank is completely gone. Like when you see Jim Miller, like she seems to be essentially a very similar fighter, but all of a sudden she's not just plunking people with overhands before they can take her down. And if she's just lost a tiny step, then maybe that's all it took. If you look back now, she has some incredible peak wins. She's beaten some incredible fighters. She has an incredible highlight reel, but even at her best, she was vulnerable. She could always be beaten, and her wins were wins of inches. Like, think of the fight where she won the title from Nami Yunus.
Yeah,
Nami Yunus was kind of handling her, and then she thrashed her by dropping her on her head. Like,
yeah,
even her easy wins weren't that easy. So if
Katlyn Chookagian was
okay, Katlyn Chookagian
that was her best one.
Yeah.
I thought that was especially because how tricky Katlyn Chookagian would be. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I'm not gonna say she's shot because of who she lost to.
Yeah,
she hasn't had that really bad loss yet. She's lost badly, but not to the wrong person.
Yep.
Now, but she has that Vanderlei Silva style that was never about technique; it was pure violence. And we saw what did that to the person who perfected that, Vanderlei Silva. It was great fighter to done overnight.
Yes.
Is that because she's all about explosion, she's all about power. Well, as you get older, you're not as explosive, you're not as powerful. The competition gets more technical, and technique beats power. And I'm not saying she's shot, but like she's probably you assume she's fighting a step down in competition in her next fight, and she's going to have to beat that tier below that she hasn't fought, that tier that she's been above for years. She's got to beat that person.
She has to. Again, the names that I threw out there, Jandiroba and Ricci. If she headlines some fight night in Brazil against Jandiroba and just gets 50-45 with a top control special, or if she fights Ricci in some 3-rounder and Ricci's throwing her all over the place, we know that Andrade is no longer a factor in any of these divisions.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of thought the same thing, where like it's at this point you have to match her up against somebody who needs that win over a name. And the person I thought of, just from a fun factor, plus like kind of deserves a bigger shot, I'm gonna go with that girl, Loma Lubumi. I just think that'd be such a fun fight.
And there's a little bit of history there, because Loma beat Denise Gomez, who's one of her training partners, and considering the weight, they're probably primary training partners. So yeah, I like that.
All right, let's move on. We'll probably go through the rest of the fights a little bit quicker. Obviously, they're not as title implications and stuff like that. Dustin Jacoby beat Kennedy Nchukwu, winning by first round TKO. Kennedy Nchukwu came out very aggressive, pressing the action, and then he just walked right into a perfect count. There's not much to say, but this lasted about a minute as Jacoby put him down. First question: what do you think about the stoppage?
I could have stood to see a couple more strikes. When the fighter on the bottom is just kind of like this, and they're taking hammer fist kind of off the guard, nothing's really getting through to the face. Sometimes the ref decides, okay, he's not defending himself, let's just stop this. Other times the ref is like, well, he's not really taking any damage or any appreciable damage. Let's see if he does something different in the next 2 or 3 seconds. I would like to have seen him get the chance to do something. Again, he wasn't taking a ton of damage. It was really early in the fight, but I'm not up in arms about it. It's on the early side of what I would have considered acceptable.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like I think you have to know who the fighter is. He's so big, he can take some shots. So I would have let it go early. I'm not saying that would have changed the outcome, or this was he would have won, and this was a bad stoppage or anything. I just, I don't think he was that hurt. I think they could have let it go a little bit. That says, I mean, Jacoby, he was heading into this fight top 15 in the UFC, not in the Sherdog rankings, but top 15 in the UFC rankings. I mean, obviously getting a win over Kennedy Nzechukwu, I feel a little bit better about him. I'm starting to worry about him, especially after his last performance. What would you like to see? Because he's calling for someone above him in the rankings, and obviously he's talking about the UFC rankings that I don't have above him. But are you looking at a bigger name, or what do you want to do with this guy?
If they're going to give him a bigger name, the time is now. He is 35 or 36 years old. He's had a lengthy MMA and kickboxing career. I think he specifically named someone like, what's his name? Why can I never think of Volkan Uzdemir's name?
Yeah, that's an easy guy to call out in the like when you look at the top 10 guys, like that's the one you're like, all right, what guy is this not that good, kind of fading.
But if you're going to give him somebody that's in that kind of territory, like a former top 10 guy who's definitely falling off, I don't hate that one. John Butterfield throws out
Alonzo Menafield.
I don't mind that either, because Menafield is another guy who's right on the cusp and time is ticking on him as well. Each of these guys could use the other as someone to prove that they really are top 10 material, and they do have a run in them. I gotta say, like, to Jacoby's credit and in his favor, like, I called this fight wrong. I thought Kennedy and Nzechukwu was going to win, but the way that Jacoby won, well, it proved me dead wrong, because he lost in exactly the kind of situation, or I mean, he won in exactly the kind of situation I thought he would lose, where Kennedy landed first, while Jacoby's moving backwards. He eats the shot, comes back with a counter that drops Kennedy. That's exactly the kind of situation where I thought, okay, if Jacoby's chin really is failing him, that's exactly the kind of way that Kennedy and Nzechukwu is going to win this fight.
Yeah.
And instead, it was the exact opposite. So, yeah, I mean, I don't mind being wrong about results. This is a chaotic sport, but Jacoby just proved that my assessment of him was wrong. Like, if you eat that flush shot from Kennedy and Nzechukwu and you have the presence of mind to come back with something better of your own, you've got a little left in the tank. Anthony Smith is a teammate of Dustin Jacoby, so I seriously doubt they're going to fight each other.
Yeah, and Anthony Smith's fighting Ryan Spann. That fight's booked. I actually went with the same one that John Butterfield did. I wrote with Alonzo Menafield. Just kind of like, I know he wants a bigger name, just kind of everyone's else. But I thought of like Dominic Reyes, if you want to fight someone like that, like a name. But I ended up going with Alonzo Menafield.
Works for me.
Let's move on. Gavin Tucker took on Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez won by first round submission. I am all in. I'm leading the bandwagon. I believe in Diego Lopez.
He has looked really, really impressive in 2 appearances. I mean, we talked about it on the preview. A short notice UFC debut against Movsar Evloev is a rough call.
Yeah.
He lost that fight, but he had trouble multiple times.
Tons of times.
Yeah. Like it was a hell of a fight. And then here he goes in against a guy in Tucker that, I mean, he'd been away for a while. This might not age that well, but Tucker, generally speaking, was a pretty tough out, and Lopez ran him over. And that was after taking a pound for pound quality dick shot.
Yeah, I was a little concerned about him. I mean, we both picked him to win, but I was, one concern about, judging him off of one fight where he still lost, but he had such a good showing. I think about like Orlando Venades against Tony Ferguson, situations like that. Tim Elliott against Demetrius Johnson, where you in a loss, you overvalue them. Instead of just saying like, hey, they look really good on this night, or there was some kind of stylistic in that matchup that made him look better. That's not the case. He showed, I mean, he had was it a flying triangle? They kept saying flying triangle. I mean, he was getting taken down, and as he's going down, he jumps into a triangle. Yeah, I guess I'll call it a flying triangle. That's not your traditional when you hear flying triangle, how you expect it, but still, super slick on the ground. To even hang with a guy like Evloev is incredible, but take out Gavin Tucker as quick as it was. I mean, yeah, I want to see this guy in a big fight next.
So do I. He's still pretty young, even though he's got a ton of fights on his record. I think he's maybe one win away from top 10 opposition. And I think he should fight a guy who's kind of just on the very outside of that looking in right now. Like other featherweights that won tonight, Sean Woods and Billy Quarantillo. I like either of those. Ironically, Tucker had been scheduled to fight Pat Sabatini like 15 different times. If Sabatini's looking for something to do this fall, I like Lopez versus Sabatini. That would certainly test his grappling game. But yeah, like if he gets one more win over one of those three guys, I think we're talking about top 10 opposition.
Okay. I hope I think we lost reception for a second, so hopefully it's back on. I don't know if it happened on your side, but it happened on my side. The name I thought of just more of a name value I thought of the winner of Cub Swanson versus Hakeem Dawodu. They're fighting in next weekend. Obviously,
name value is great there. I would heavily favor him against either of those.
I would too. Definitely over Cub Swanson.
Mm-hmm.
Dawodu is, but Dawodu's style fits right into Lopez. Like, you want to take him down? Cool. Yeah. Before that, we like to make fun. We made a lot of fun of this fight. Tanner Boser versus Alexa Kamer. I'll say this. It was a pretty good fight.
It was fun. I mean, it was arguably the most entertaining fight on the main card. It might have been the most entertaining fight that went to decision all night. Like it was pretty good, but I don't know how much I learned about Boser. Boser looks great physically at 205 now. I will say that. And if he's going to do this seriously, he needed to reinvent himself as a light heavyweight, and he seems to be doing so. Because at heavyweight, he was very much a bounce around the outside, stick and move guy, high volume, low power, because he was faster and in better shape than most of those guys. At light heavyweight, he isn't going to be, so he needs to fight differently, and at least against Alexa Kamer, he did. Rather than a stick and move guy, he was a stick and stick. Like he was planting his feet, like actually throwing solid punches at him. He was willing to kind of bully him in the clinch because Kamer's, even though he's like muscular, he's a lot smaller. He fought the perfect plan to beat Alexa Kamer. I mean,
yeah, I thought Boser looked good. I thought he looked fast, but I'm still like pumping the brakes a little bit because I mean, it's like, well, how much of that just facing a, scraping the bottom of the barrel of the UFC, division. I like some of the things he's doing, like the first round. I like how he changed up. The first round, he was pulling Kamer into his punches and stuff. He's doing really good at that. Second round, then he started just pressuring him. Third round, he started just bullying him in the clinch. I thought he showed a lot. A lot. I'm not going to matchmaker. I'm not going to stop buying in the hype of Tanner Boser, but overall, I thought it was a really good performance. Kamer, on the other hand, he kept trying to clinch, which was weird. Kept trying to clinch against a guy who's bigger than you. But I hated how he was trying to like clinch and wrestle. He was like shooting to the hip. I mean, above the hips into a body lock, and it's just like, dude, shoot through the hips if you want to take down. Just like how many times you could do that, and just it wasn't good. Yeah, he's not good.
Nope. That's about it. All there is to it.
Before that, Ignacio Bahamondes took on Ludwig Klein. Klein was sharp. I mean, he was really sharp. He picked up his timing fairly quickly, was hurting him. His wrestling, it was underrated. He was getting some takedowns and his offensive wrestling has come a long way since when he first joined the UFC.
Yeah.
And to me, Bahamondes never looked comfortable. Like he couldn't get going, and the whole fight he was uncomfortable.
Completely agreed. This obviously Klein has improved technically, especially his wrestling. He was always kind of a lights out knockout artist even before he came to the UFC, but he manhandled Bahamondes with physicality. He had the speed where he was just bouncing inside Bahamondes' reach effortlessly over and over again. His strength allowed him to get easy takedown finishes even when he didn't necessarily have the perfect technique going. He just was able to kind of hoist and throw a much bigger looking man. There's something that, I mean, if Klein was able to do that to Bahamondes, just kind of easily get inside his jab and kicks just with speed, then Bahamondes is going to need to make some changes. And there's something you pointed out, that you like fighters that if they're tall and have a long frame, they learn to adjust by going for the clinch first when people come inside on them. Bahamondes would be well served to develop that habit.
I think it is Jake. You know how they duck in boxing, they clinch down, you duck down when you're in the clinch. Yeah. It looks like Diaz put him in a guillotine real quick. The fight just ended. The Jake Paul won. I mean, I wasn't what it was very. So Nate put him in a guillotine with 10 seconds left of the fight. Again, I wasn't scoring. I think Nate won a couple rounds. But from what I saw, Jake Paul probably. I mean, he dropped him one round. He definitely won the first round. Definitely won the round, and you hurt him. The other rounds, I wasn't watching close enough. I think Nate probably won a couple rounds of that, but it wasn't. It actually looked like it was pretty entertaining. So those, if you guys actually watched it in more detail, put out there what you scored the fight. You weren't watching it all, correct?
No.
Ben's too good for that. Another thing about the Bahamondes fight that was, disturbing if you're a Bahamondes fan is one. I think it was Dominic Cruz pointed this out. He stopped kicking and really just started boxing, and just really struggled on bot. He got taken down, didn't work back to his feet, getting held down by a kickboxer incline. And the one note I wrote is that he's not as good as I thought he was.
That's a fair assessment. Obviously, there's plenty of time for him to work on that. He's still very young. He has physical tools that will always present matchup problems. But yeah, thus far, he's, if not a ceiling, he's definitely hit a plateau.
Yeah. All right, so that was the entire main card. Let's go on to the prelims. I actually thought the prelims might have been better than the main card. The top prelim fight, even though this fight went 15 minutes, I actually think there's not too much to talk about, as Kyler Phillips beat Hani Barcelos by unanimous decision. Phillips was just too fast for him. Too good in scrambles, when he was getting taken down, scrambled. And what disturbed me, well, let me go to the side. Johnny, I love when he just throws out the most random accomplishments ever about a fighter, trying to make it sound like, oh, he was a 5-time Brazilian wrestling champion. What the hell does that mean? Brazilian wrestling champion. Brazil's not known for their wrestling. Nope. I don't know how many people wrestling in Brazil, but you go to wrestling tournament, guy pulls guard.
You find out that they start from their knees, when you have that wrestling, those first wrestling lessons in junior high school gym class.
Oh, every jiu-jitsu gym across America does.
No,
yeah, just talk to me about this fight.
Well, I mean, Barcelos is pretty much a known quantity at this point. The question was how Phillips was going to look after a long layoff that, as I was reminded, was due to a PED suspension. When someone comes back from a long PED suspension, it's worth asking if they're going to be the same guy. Physically, he seemed to be the same guy. He looked rusty in round one. You could already tell that he was way faster than Barcelos, but the timing wasn't quite there. Barcelos had a little easier time, catching up to him than he should have, even if I thought Phillips won the round. But yeah, Phillips seems to slot right back in as a guy who is on a general trajectory towards the top 10, but it's going to take longer than we expect because he's probably going to lose a fight he shouldn't from time to time. It's going to be tough for him to string together 5 wins in a row. He's going to win 2, lose 1, win 2, lose 1, even though he's the more talented fighter the whole time.
Yeah, so Jake Paul won a unanimous decision. I don't know the scorecards. So let's see who he fights next. Jorge Masvidal or again Mike Perry, or I don't know, Tank Abbott. Who knows? I don't know. I'm turning this off now, so I don't care what the. So yeah, Jake Paul won on all the judges' scorecards, but of course he didn't win on Nate's scorecard. Nate's still undefeated.
Of course.
Yeah, I thought he looked good. one issue I have with Phillips, and this is where it's such a tough division that always kind of gives me that little pause about him, is he slows down in the third round. Like even this round, he was slowing down. The cardio was getting to him. You can't have that in if you want to be an upper echelon. Like I think he's going to be about this range, where he's explosive, he's fast, he's a great athlete, he's going to be fun. But there's, he's not very technical. He puts himself in some bad positions because of some of the things he does. And then the cardio fading, give away late rounds. I think he's going to be this like top 25 guy, but never really break out, make a run into the title or top 10 or anything like that. Hannibal Salas, what disturbed me about him, he's lost a lot of fights recently, but it's a lot of good guys, but no urgency in the third round. He's down 0-2, and Phillips is tiring. You can see it, and he doesn't press the action. Doesn't, and a part of me wonders if he can anymore.
That's a good point.
And if he can't, that's even worse.
Yeah, that's even worse because he was fighting like he was in a 5-round fight. Like he did enough to win that third round against Phillips, but he had to know, even the most unrealistic Brazilian, and we've seen Brazilians get like legitimately surprised at all kinds of decisions being announced. He had to know if he didn't finish Phillips exactly what the fight was going to look like. It was one of the more obvious 29-28 fights ever.
It felt like when I play like a board game with my kids, especially when they're younger than they were now, and we play like Sorry or one of these board games, and someone wins. The first person to get all their little little figures in the circle, this area or something like that. They used to always want to play for second and third and fourth. Like that, it seemed like he was playing for second. Like,
yeah,
the game's over, but I'm gonna keep hitting this little button and then have the dice roll, and we'll see who would take second. So, I don't think we'll be doing any more Hannibal Salas. Can he beat this guy? Can he beat that guy anymore?
No, like I'm now the real question is like, the Brazilian wrestling team better than the Kentucky Judo Federation is like the real
we have a dual meet. That's what we gotta have. Before that, Jeremiah Wells took on Carlston Harris. Carlston Harris won by third round submission. Carlston Harris was losing every second of this fight until he got the submission.
This was a Paul Craig performance.
Yeah. Not 1 second left, but yeah, sure.
But like just in the sense of losing every minute of this fight until he pulls out an unquestionable like finish.
I remember Michael Bisping saying it was like the third round, and Jeremiah Wells shoots in on him. I don't know. There's like 2 minutes, 3 minutes left in the fight. And Michael Bisping's like, I tell him right now, don't jump a guillotine. I'm thinking, no, it's actually probably the only time you should jump a guillotine, because like you're gonna lose, maybe you catch a guillotine. But then he gets his anaconda choke. Jeremiah Wells just the camera work was perfect because it's directly on his face, and you just see him like fade away like a like someone dying in a movie, just slowly like Yoda with Luke Skywalker is talking to him, and just you see his eyes open to close to like a grimace to nothing.
Yeah, it was something, man. He was out enough that he was kind of like twitching afterwards. It was a rough look, and it's the thing. I mean, it's not like he gassed out. It's not like he made a horrible mistake. Just somebody
Caught him.
Tried the Hail Mary. Somebody tried the half court shot and made the half court shot.
When guys go out though, we should at least get that like dramatic like last line as they die, like we get in the movies.
We should have but we didn't even get that. Like, yeah,
didn't even say anything. He didn't have a bad performance. Doing Wells. The problem is, we talked about this at his age. We talked about how unlikely it was for him to, go on a title run, despite at that point being undefeated in the UFC. Now losing at 36 and dropping back in a division where you got to win like 9 in a row to get a title shot. At 36 years old, he's going to have to fight, every 4 months for the next 3 years and win every single fight.
And meanwhile, Harris is the same age. He's now 4-1 in the UFC. The only person he's lost to is Shavkat Rakhmonov.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, good point. So yeah, that's another guy the guy that he should be ahead of. He's behind of. Yeah, just that's a tough one.
it is that this was. I mean, never say never, but this felt like a death blow to any like title run hopes for Jeremiah Wells.
Yeah. Before that, Billy Quarantillo took on Damon Jackson, and it was everything we'd expect a Billy Quarantillo versus Damon Jackson fight to be. I just love these two guys. I just like what just when you have those two guys, you go, "Oh, this fight's gonna be bonkers," and then it does exactly what you expect. Like hats off to those guys.
Seriously, I got the call on this one wrong. I'm not mad about it because Billy Quarantillo had a Billy Quarantillo third round.
David Jackson looked incredible in the first round. It was like one of the best performances of his career. Looked like he was going to stop him.
Dev is saying Damon Jackson looks 60 from the shoulders up. He can join the club with Francisco Trinaldo. They're like the walking version of that face app thing, that like ages your face by like 30 years. That's what Damon Jackson and Francisco Trinaldo both look like. Like just a 60-year-old head on like a 30-year-old body.
They're like that guy. Like you go to the gym, you go to your Planet Fitness, and you're working out, and you're feeling pretty good. You know what I'm talking about when you're like hitting the weights. You get that like pump going, so you're like muscles up, pumped up. You're feeling like, and then you look over, and there's a guy 20 years older than you who's way more ripped than you, lifting way more weights than you, and you're like,
dude,
oh my god, that guy's so unwieldy. Man, that guy's like 60.
I shook hands with Bill Goldberg last night. He's got to be 60.
Yeah,
he was at the PFL thing.
Yeah, that's not fair though. He's that's a little different. Like he's all steroided up and stuff. I'm talking about.
I refuse to.
Yeah, go figure. Go figure. The guy whose gimmick was to stand in the middle of fireworks. Like, who would think that guy would take some supplements or take some things he shouldn't have? Like, oh yeah, that guy is sane in his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the guy, I'm believing that old man at Planet Fitness lifting more than me is he's juicing too.
Yeah.
Screw that grandpa. What I love about Billy Quarantillo is for you to work the body and pressure and get a guy like Damon Jackson, who's the pressure guy, the guy that gets people to fold, the guy that isn't the most talented guy, but he beats you from his willpower. That was so impressive, especially because how it started for Quarantillo. I mean, early on, besides Jackson looked good, Quarantillo just like, dude, you got to lift your left hand. You keep throwing the left hand and not rechambering, and he's just going over the top of your left hand and blasting you.
Clocking you. Yep.
Lift your left hand up, dude.
Yeah, no, it was a really fun fight.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, there's a ceiling. Neither one of these guys are ever going to break in the top. Maybe Quintola can get the top 15 somewhere, but you get my point. Like, if he gets the top 15, he's top 15 for one fight, then he loses to, they're not on the radar at all. But I'll say this. I'm always excited to see them. So they just announced in Boston 2 weeks from now. Now I know why I was sitting there. I'm like, well, there's only like nine or 10 fights. They haven't stacked up the card more. They announced that the finals of the Ultimate Fighter is going to be on the prelims of that card. I don't know if you caught that.
No.
Yeah. So the season that's going on right now, the final. So Austin Hubbard's in one of them, and Brad Catona's in the other. So they don't know who their opponents are yet, but they're in the finals. And they're gonna fight in Boston. Like, dude, give me freaking Billy Quarantillo versus Damon Jackson over like that.
Yeah, I mean, Austin Hubbard and Brad Katona is who came out of that season.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Yeah, I'll say this: I'd rather watch Billy Quarantillo and Damon Jackson than Chris Wyman versus Brad Tavares.
Yeah.
That's also on the Boston card. All right, let's move on. Before that, a really, really fun fight. Jake Hadley taking on Cody Durden. Cody Durden winning by unanimous decision. I said earlier we don't brag about our bets, but I'm going to say something because some people track this. if me and Ben both agree on an underdog, take that shit to the bank. We are pretty good at that.
We're pretty good at that. And the thing is, we do not talk about our picks before we start recording. So I'm sometimes surprised when he picked the same upset I did. And when I think I'm really hip for it, I get mad at myself for making him go first. I was like, shit, I should have gone first, because now everyone's just going to think I'm copying off you. But no, yeah, we both called this one. I honestly felt pretty good about it, and it played out that way. This was a lot of fun to me, dude. Like, this is one of the more enjoyable fights that spent this much time on the ground that I can remember in a couple of years. Like, both guys had the other in tons of trouble multiple times. Like, it was so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This fight was incredible. I'll say this. Oh, let me respond. Brian, private message me if we can make it happen. Definitely. I don't know what my schedule will be like, so I'm doing some interviews and whatnot. But if we can make it happen, dude, I'm totally down. So private message me if you're up there, that'd be cool.
Or just shoot somebody in Rhode Island that night, and he'll come by.
We'll meet that too. Yeah, we'll meet that way too.
Don't do that. We're not rioting, and we're not shooting anybody in Rhode Island.
Yeah, don't do that tonight because I'm on call. So, I will say this about Durden, and well, let's talk about the technical stuff. Just super fun. Durden is much better than he gets credit for. His striking has come a long way. Like, his boxing is really good. I mean, he was handling. I shouldn't handle, but he was hanging with Hadley on the feet before the takedowns.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely, in the third round, he was winning the striking exchanges. I thought early in the first round he was winning it. He's got good grappling, which, I mean, Georgia's high school state champion wrestler, not Georgia the country, Georgia the state.
Yeah.
But still, a high school state champion wrestler. But his wrestling transitions well. He's so good at using his striking to set up his shots. His cardio is good, and then he has insane toughness. I mean, that arm bar.
Oh goodness!
I mean, you see him grimacing, and all I just kept thinking was, don't be tough enough to let your arm break. Like, don't do it. You're not getting paid enough money. I know people respect you if you do it and you're a badass, but just don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to be out for a year. Just tap out.
Yeah, but I mean, he toughed it out, and no, I agree. He's better rounded than you would expect. Like,
yeah, he's good.
He has a little bit of a meathead vibe to him, but I like that you also mentioned his cardio, because he is a pretty big flyweight, just with good muscle on his frame, who has an exertion heavy fight style.
Yeah.
Like he fights at as high a pace as his opponent wants to, and then some, and he's not afraid to wrestle, and he's not afraid to wrestle in ways that burn gas, just powering through long stalemates in difficult positions. And it hasn't really cost him yet. Like, at this point, he's lost twice in the UFC. Once was to Jimmy Flick, he probably would have flying armbarred anybody that night. And then Muhammad Mokaev, who, while he's lost at this point, is still a really highly regarded prospect. Beyond that, Durden's looked good. I'm concerned for Hadley at this point, because both of Hadley's UFC losses have involved him either getting out grappled or somebody at least being able to hold their own with him on the ground. And part of the problem being that the opponent was physically bigger and stronger. Like, Alan Nascimento and now Durden have both.
Especially Nascimento. Nascimento's a big dude. But Durden's a big guy too. Back to Durden real quick. Yeah, his cardio has become a tool. He's insanely tough. But it's funny we talk about his cardio. The commentary team was talking about him slowing down in the second period, and I'm like, he took a breath for a second between exchanges, because I don't think he slowed down at all. No. I thought he looked. I was concerned coming in the third. With his arm getting ranked, I'm like, I wonder if he's able to use I think it was his left arm, and then he's throwing jabs with it. I'm like, I guess he's fine. Now I don't know if he'll be able to use it tomorrow. Like that might be different, But Hadley, I like him. I really do. Like I like his style. He's a fun striker. He's very crisp with it. He's got fun, like super slick. I mean, we saw the arm bars and stuff that he had tonight. But it's that Rob Font thing where he gets taken down, and you mentioned it, 2 fights. That's why I picked Durden. And it's like I can't trust Hadley to get off the bottom until he shows me in a fight that he can. Yeah. Dev mentions a little Kobe comment thing with Durden, like he flipped off Hadley and everything. He's trying to be. I will say this: whether you like him or not, he's a personality, and the UFC needs personality. Now, listen, I'm not talking about I don't even remember which fight it was, but he says
it was Arichi like talking about sending him back to China.
Yeah, like I'm not talking about that, but I mean just like if he wants to be a bad guy, not shake your opponent's hand, flip him off. This is the division with no personalities. Like I mean, flyweight is you know how I feel about flyweight. Like we'll talk even more about it later, but it's always been a great division. It's becoming better. But we don't have personalities. Like, who's the biggest personality in the division? Makayev?
I mean, does Cejudo count? Probably not. He's probably never at 125 again.
No.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Moreno has a likable personality.
Sure. Okay, so yeah, there's one. There's one with a personality. Moreno.
But it's not the kind of personality that makes press conferences appointment viewing.
No.
He's not going to say anything outrageous. He's just this lovable dude. Yeah.
He's charming because he's like nerdy and fun and happy. He's got a little bit like a Amanda Hebus personality.
He totally does. Like there was an interesting like little video that circulated a year or so ago where like a bunch of other UFC fighters were complaining that Brandon Moreno was their mom's favorite fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon Moreno is like definitely the guy you want would be like your neighbor or something.
Yeah.
But Durden, I mean, when you think of Makayev, you think of now Durden, like there's 3 or 4 guys in the division personality, and all the rest have the UFC personality. Like, hard work pays off. I want to thank my team. I want to thank I liked it. That's not Durden.
No.
Telling people tell them to F off and everything. Yeah. What do we do with Durden next? I mean, he's on a run. He's beating good guys. What would you do with him?
In a few weeks, Manel Kopp and Kai Kara France are fighting. Maybe the loser of that.
I thought about that one. I really thought about that.
I think the winner is too close to the title.
Yeah, the winner probably get the title shot.
But the loser is still firmly a top 10 guy, and either one would be an interesting matchup for Durden.
Yeah, especially if Kopp wins, he's definitely got a title shot.
Yeah,
there's another guy with some personality. So he's got a little bit of personality, but his fighting style definitely has personality.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean, like that. I didn't go that high, but I wanted to go with like a test to him. I went with Match Style. Maybe just a fun fight based on it. But I did think about Kara France. If Kara France loses, I think that would make more sense. But him and Kopp talking I don't know.
Skynet says Sumudarji just because he wants like another like wild quote from him.
Yeah, just do the whole like Asian market.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before that, Sean Woodson took on Dennis Bazooka. Bazooka got added to the card days notice. I mean, even after we previewed the card, so we previewed Sunday. So between Sunday and today, I think it was like Monday or Tuesday.
It changed twice.
Yeah, it was Jesse Butler at one point.
It was Jesse Butler, and then it was Dennis Bazookia. He went through 4 opponents in like.
No, I think there was somebody in between that Butler. When Butler dropped out.
Yeah, no, there was Butler, and then
somebody for it was like a half hour. Next time I knew it changed again.
Yeah, like he had 4 opponents in like 11 days. It was ridiculous.
That was like the one the manager called him like, "Hey, you want to fight Sean Woodson on like days notice UFC?" Yeah, sure, I will. And then like
he looks him up on YouTube.
No, yeah, like fuck that.
Like at what middleweight?
Have you seen that guy's head? Or like he's like, "Oh, that's cool. I'm in the UFC." And then like the manager calls on. I was like, "So we're gonna fly Tuesday." Like, "Oh, wait a minute, what?" Oh, Marion Santos, thank you. Yeah. Like we flying on Tuesday. Yeah, for the UFC. Oh, I thought it was a joke. Like I'm not really fighting the UFC.
I mean, I would have been willing to forgive Woodson almost anything after all of that.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
but
and Butler wasn't Butler his second opponent? Who
yeah.
was the first one?
Oh, his first opponent was,
Let's see, I can pull it up.
I got it. Steve Garcia.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. Out of all the opponents, I don't know much about Marion Santos or Jesse Butler that much, if I'm being honest. But Steve Garcia might be the easiest opponent of the four.
Yeah. Like,
I don't know. Guys. Before you come at me, I'm just fooling around. But I'll say this about Woodson. Like he's obviously the scouting report since all the way back to the Contender Series is super slick boxer. I love that he throws combinations. He's one of these guys that actually throws a lot of uppercuts, which very few people do in MMA. He's added some calf kicks, which should have always been a big part of his game, being his long frame, and he just touches with a crisp short. Like even though he's long arm, but I mean short. Like there's no wind up. It's very tight jab. He's got the raw tools. He really does. He's got obviously the size, the length, his mentality. We've seen improved cardio tonight, like we've seen it before in third round fade out. That wasn't the case tonight. We saw improved takedown defense. He wasn't taken down. I liked that he was grappling some of his own, showing that he's kind of confident in that where he wasn't before. If he continues to improve, that's a threat in the division. I'm not saying to win title or anything, but when I say threat, I mean like could be ranked one day, which is a hell of accomplishment.
and somebody that is built like him and has such a kind of unique fight style like him, it's almost like knuckleball pitchers, like they have a certain amount of success just because they're hard to prepare for. Like, yeah, I can't imagine anybody at 145, 155, or 170 in the UFC would feel comfortable facing Sean Woodson on short notice. Like he's just,
yeah,
he's a unique fighter. I think he's a lot of fun to watch. But there's definitely a hard ceiling there, and I have the feeling he's going to end up at 155 eventually.
Yeah, I do too. But I'm going to give Bazooka an absolute pass. One UFC debut in days' notice. Also, like not in the apex in the crowd. Now, that some people it might be easier in the apex. Some people might be easier with the crowd. Obviously, I don't know him like that, but Sean Woodson's always going to be a tough stylistic matchup for so many people. Even if you beat one, it's still it's a different fight than most. So his next fight is almost going to be like his UFC debut because this one
Completely agree.
And before that, Ode Osborne took on Azul Amabayev. You seem pretty high on Amabayev. I was kind of a little wait and see approach. He looked brilliant. I thought he fought great. I thought he looked what he did, and I'll let you talk about it first. Looked good to me.
Well, what I like about him is, because I did pick him to beat Osborne, and he was the favorite to beat Osborne, but he looked better than he did in his regional fights. Because in his regional fights, I said he's a guy who is obviously used to overwhelming opponents just by being the better athlete. He's gotten away with a lot of stuff that is not gonna stand him in good stead in the UFC, but he kind of got all the mortar in between the bricks this time. Like just nice job mixing strikes and takedowns. And then once he was on the ground, good sound positional grappling, getting in strikes while looking to advance and looking for the sub. I mean, it was textbook mixed martial arts against a tough out in Ode Osborne. Yeah.
Yeah, I said it was a brilliant performance based on what he was trying to. You said he mixed in his striking and his grappling and his entries. I like not just that he was throwing punches, but what specific punches he was throwing. He was throwing power shots, which got two things happened. Get your opponent to forget about your wrestling for a second, because like, holy shit, this guy's trying to like clean my clock. He's throwing punches like Jeremiah Wells out here. But two, that causes them to lift their defense, which sets up your entries. So that's what he was kind of getting Osborne with. Man, you saw his control, some slick back takes. When he got the back, I mean, it was a wrap. He's got some slick BJ. He's got a lot of subs on his record. To me, the no eyebrow, and it seems like I'm writing this every recap show recently, is another great addition to the UFC flyweight division. I'm not saying he's going to win the title or anything like that, but every week that goes by, the division gets deeper and deeper. And it was always the most talented division in the sense of, if you flyweight, you're just super skilled, you're super fast, everything. But now we're starting to get deep. That was like the thing and you'll never be as deep as those other divisions because, the further you get out from the medium, you get less heavyweights, you get less flyweights because, most people weigh within this range. So it'll never be like insane deep pure number, but talent, the division's loaded with talent.
Yes. Just everyone's good at everything. Everyone has good cardio. Everyone's a good athlete.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys, let's get to the fun stuff. It's a late night. It's already 1:37 in the morning for a fight night. Usually pay-per-views we expect not necessarily a fight night, but let's get to let's do the order a little different than we normally do. Okay. Let's we have the awards. All right, we can hold off the awards.
Let me see what we got here. I'm looking.
All right, while Ben's looking, let's do dude. You have any dude seriouslys?
I mean, dude, seriously, to the commentary booth for the whole night.
Yeah, you seem to be a little tougher usually on the comment booth than I am. I would jab him a little bit, but you seem to not like him as much. But I feel like generally speaking, we are more friendly to the comment booth. The chat can be a little mean to the commentary, and Twitter, forget it. Like Twitter, forget it. But I'm agree with you today. The commentary was not good. They had some moments. So I'll give you some. I got some dude seriouslys and Ninja Kitty, nice job, dude. Seriously, listen. This is Gillette Stadium. Luke Combs in the rain in the monsoon. It also is what's also happening to me is I'm screwing up because when I look at myself on the screen, everything's the opposite direction is really fucking me up. Like you would think by like the amount of shows that we've done now, I would have that down, but no, not happening. This thing right here, this little notch right there is killing me. Putting this hand on the Bears list.
That's
all right, let's get to some dude seriously. I got some. Sean Woodson gets a big win and he has a speech for his mom. He says, "Mom, I know you have your own battle right now. I won my fight, but I know you're gonna win your fight. So this one's dedicated to my mom." And Michael Bisping's response is, "Yeah, shout out to all the moms." It's like, dude, he was specifically talking about his mom. I don't know what her battle is. I'm assuming it's some kind of health thing or
yeah.
Maybe
she's got her MMA debut coming up.
She's Jace Paul's next opponent. Sean, what's his mom? Whatever she's going through. It was specific. You ruined a nice moment that he was trying to have.
Yeah.
I hope someone in the I hope, and there's a lot of good media members there. Hopefully one of them asked them to go in deeper because I'm curious and stuff. And Michael Bisping, dude, seriously, how about the UFC bringing out the translator for Carlton Harris? Guy speaks English. They just assumed, oh, he must not speak English. Did you catch that? They're like, oh, let's get the translator, and the guy comes in, and they're like, Michael Bisping says, oh, you come back winning. So, what do you think? You think he's gonna say something in a different language? He just says everything perfect English.
Yeah,
he had an accent. He had an accent,
but he had about as much of one as Alistair Overeem does.
Yeah. Where's he from again?
He's from Guyana.
Guyana. Okay, yeah. So yeah, he had this. I mean, I don't know Guyana accent, but I spoke perfect English.
Oh, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, these guys never talk. How about this one? Alexa Kamer, they announced he's. I don't know if you heard this. He's just got engaged. Alexa Kamer's girlfriend's name. Do you know what her name is? What? Alexa.
Oh,
Alexa
really?
Kamer's girlfriend. Maybe I heard it wrong, but Alexa Kamer is dating a girl named Alexa who, if they go traditional, can you hear that in the background? I'm saying Alexa, and
Your house speaker is
my house speaker's going
yeah.
off saying like, "Speak up! I don't know what you're saying."
Yeah, like I'm.
Yeah. So if they're traditional, that woman's name soon will be
Alexa.
Alexa Kamer.
IKEA lamp on.
Okay.
Ooh, I don't know if I have my lamp set, but that's pretty dope.
Alexa, IKEA lamp off.
Okay.
Wow. That was more functional than Alexa Kamer today.
Damn.
But I got to move on because they keep talking. How about dude? Seriously, what the hell was Aljamain Sterling doing in attendance when he's in Nashville when he's fighting 2 weeks from now in Boston? He trains in
Long Island,
Long Island, New York. He's fighting in Boston. What the hell's he doing in Nashville, Tennessee?
I mean, that was interesting. He better make weight. He better look sharp. It is ironic that all these warnings are coming from someone who calls himself Skynet. Like I will say that.
Yeah, dude, seriously. All right, I got a couple more. I think that's. Oh, I got one more. Michael Bisping said that Tatiana Suarez is the best wrestler in MMA. Dude, seriously, I'm assuming you meant best women's wrestler because we all know who the best wrestler in MMA, of course, Bo Nickel.
Of course.
All right. Let's do. You have any do seriouslys or?
No, I mean just like I was generally frustrated with the booth. I got to shout out whoever. I mean, a couple people have at this point. People who pointed out that Dana White left in the middle of the main event.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, yeah, he gets super mad.
I mean, and it's not like he went anywhere because all he did was go straight down to the media room and like fume until the post-fight presser started. But yeah,
who knows? Maybe he left something on the oven or something. Oh shoot, I got that thing going on right now at midnight in Nashville. West Coast says Cory Sandhagen might be the best wrestler. Nice job. All right, let's do. You want to do the cut list?
Yeah, let's do the cut list.
All right. Do you have anybody for the cut list? Now, for those who are not familiar, which I think most people here, if both me and Ben have the same name on our list, we give the UFC permission to release this person and bring in somebody else. So
I have two.
All right.
One is Alexa Kamer. He has lost 3 in a row. And at this point, he is still in the UFC based off of a Contender Series win over Fabio Charant and a UFC win over Justin Ledet. I said on the preview, that's about as low level as you can get. It's 2 guys that between the 2 of them, I think maybe got 1 total win in the UFC. Like, Kamer just doesn't belong.
He's on my list too. Lost 3 in a row. He hasn't won in 3.5 years. The only problem is you forget one thing. He's not in the UFC because of it. He's in the UFC because Stipe Miocic just agreed to fight John Jones, and that was in his contract.
Okay, yeah, you're probably right.
Like just weird. Wow, the guy we haven't booked for is back. Wow.
Yeah. And my other one, Hani Barcelos has lost 4 or 5, and he's generally been pretty competitive, and he's still fighting. I mean, it's not like he's losing to chumps.
Yeah,
but he's lost 4 or 5. He's 36, and like I mean, it's not going to get better.
Yeah,
out with the old and with the new.
Hani Barcelos is the favorite of the Shillan and Duffy show, but unfortunately, I have to agree with Ben with this. He was also on my list, so sad moment. But Hani Barcelos is officially on the Shillan and Duffy cut list. I want to address something. Dev said that I didn't hear this, but PFL said that Bubba Jenkins is one of the best wrestlers in the sport. Not anymore, but at one time he was. I mean, you're talking about a national champion, and but he was a national champion like I don't know, 14 years ago or something like that.
It was a while ago. Ironically,
I think he beat David Taylor in the finals. Why do I could be way off with that. I have to look. Was he in the same weight class?
Well, I was going to say, were they in the same weight class, or was Taylor like a weight class above him? I can't remember.
I feel like I remember Bubba Jenkins. I want to say he cradles a guy in the fight. He catches someone in the cradle, and for some reason, I want to say he beat like a really young David Taylor. I could be wrong.
I mean, Bubba's the one who left Penn State because he didn't like Cale Sanderson, and then like pinned the Penn State guy the next year.
And-
Like that was him and
and
David
that's-
Taylor.
and
That was
that'd be-
totally him and David Taylor. Yes.
Yeah, because he's older than Jason Nolf.
Yeah. No. Like John
David
Butterfield.
Taylor, right?
Like, lest you say Brits don't know anything about wrestling, John Butterfield is the one who's saying, yeah, it was David Taylor.
It was David
Yeah.
Taylor. All right, cool.
Yeah, and that was
going
the
back
whole-
I'm going back 15 years, but yeah. I would have guessed that if they wrestled again, that wouldn't go that way right now. Okay, yeah, it was David Taylor. Yeah, all right. So my memory, is still good. All right, let's get to the Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and the Bears are a stock market reference. When things are going good, it's a bull stock. When things are going bad, it's a bear stock. You want to be on the Bulls list. You don't want to be on the Bears list. We do it hockey style, 3, 2, 1. We'll read people in the chats too. Let's go with the Bears. You mind if I go first?
Go for it.
All right. I love this team, but it was not a good night for them as they went 0-2. Both their fighters came out fast start, ended up losing. Fortis MMA went 0-2 with Kenny Njoku and Damian Jackson. Started off looking great and didn't end great.
Yeah.
My number 2, it's got to be Jake Hadley. Just as you mentioned, like he's got promise, but he has a huge glaring weakness in a division where it's not where you can't wrestle, but you're heavyweight. No one really wrestles. There's a lot of wrestlers at flyweight. And my number 1, to me, is Jessica Andrade. I mean, it's 3 losses in a row. Yeah, she lost to 3 studs, but the problem is she used to be that stud, and she was the one who beat people like that. Obviously, she took. I remember someone in the comment, and I apologize. I don't remember who was saying that they think at this point it just paychecks for Jessica Andrade, especially because how frequently she's been fighting recently. That might be the case.
You know what? If you're serious about making another run yourself, you don't take 2 short notice fights in a calendar year.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, I agree with all yours. I will just add a couple to it. Jeremiah Wells, we mentioned it. At his age and in a division where you cannot afford a loss, like there is no good time for a loss, he took one and it was a bad one because he had this fight in hand. And if he'd held on and won the fight like he was headed towards, Harris was actually a pretty credible win for him. So yeah, that was a big blow to him. And also Ignacio Bamondes. Lost in pretty one-sided fashion, lost to a guy who 2 years ago was a featherweight. And it just kind of underscored all the unresolved problems with his game. Like you said that we might have seen the edge of his development. That's entirely possible. But yeah, like the shine is gone for sure.
Yeah, I think another one I think of, maybe Rob Font in main events. Like I don't know what his records are in the main events. Not too good. I mean I know he beat Garbrandt in a main event, but he's lost. I know he lost to Jose Aldo. He's lost to Sandhagen. He's lost a couple of the ones. He's
been in 4 and he's 1-3.
Oh, okay. Not as bad as I thought. They might make a couple of co-main events that I'm thinking of were main events.
Yeah, but the other problem with Font is you mentioned, he's a good fighter with a great weapon, and every time he comes up against a fighter on the next level, he comes up short, and it's usually just really one-sided. Like I think he's only been finished once in the UFC, and it was by Pedro Munoz a million years ago. But in his loss to Vera Aldo,
he lost to the ghost of Jose Aldo,
and was never really in it. Like Aldo handled it.
No, it wasn't like a back and forth fight. All right, let's go to the Bulls. This is the list you want to be on. The people who had a good night. Ben, I'll let you go first.
Bulls. Dustin Jacoby. light heavyweight is almost the opposite of what we've been saying about 135, 145, 170. You only got to string together a couple wins to really make a big deal out of yourself, especially if you're knocking people out. Jacoby did that. He won a fight that he was not favored to win, and he, at least to me, answered a few questions about himself. That's a good place to be. Carlston Harris, everything we said about Wells, the exact inverse is true for Harris. He's the same age. He's also, I mean, they're in that division where you can't afford to lose ever. But, now, like I said, he's 4-1 in the UFC. His only loss is to Shavkat Rakhmonov, and Wells was a good scalp for him. And last one I'll throw out there. I should have done them in better order. Our debuting guy, Asu Almabayev.
Yeah.
Ode Osborne is a tough ask for a guy that had only been fighting in pretty low-level regional stuff, and he made it look easy, checked off all the boxes. You said it, Flyweight's got another good addition, and this guy's pretty young and obviously improving really quickly.
All right, so those three was Almabayev,
Harris, and Jacoby.
Harris. Yeah, Harris and Jacoby. Okay.
I left a couple for you.
Yeah, I tell you. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Cody Durnan. I mean, 4 wins in a row in that division. Really good. And then it wasn't a thrashing, but it was such a fun fight that I think people would want to see him fight again because it was crazy and sitting there, grinning as your arms breaking. I think a lot of people would respect his tenacity. My number 2. A guy I said I'm all in for once again. I mean, you get a flying, some triangle submission, and I'm sure some jiu-jitsu people will have some not claim it was flying, whatever. Regardless, incredible submission by Diego Lopez. My number 2, and my number 1. I mean, Tatiana Suarez, 11-0, 2-0 in return. Since she returned now. You're talking about her next fight being for the title. A lot of people talk it that way. She looked like she hasn't lost a step. Fantastic. How about just go with the couple, her and Patchy Mix right now? Like both of them are flying pretty high. So I gave an extra bear. So can I just for what's the word I'm looking at, like balance sake?
Yeah.
Can I give another bull?
Of course.
All right. So a couple weeks ago, I was bragging about my kid for softball. My kid, the same one, joined. She'd be so embarrassed if I told people this, but I'm gonna do it anyways because I'm a super proud dad. She's in a youth group at church, and they have a big competition called the National Fine Arts. It's has thousands. You have like these. You start like regional ones. Like she went to like Rhode Island and New England and everything, and they have different competitions, all different things of singing, acting, poems, art, music, all kinds of stuff. So this is my softball pitcher. She entered. She made it to nationals last year in singing. This year she did singing and poetry. There's thousands of people in this competition. They meet once a year at different places. Last year was in Orlando. She's only 13 years old. This year they were in Columbus, Ohio. So she just 1 week. She got home during the first round of the main event. Like she's been gone for a week. Had a great time. In the history of this competition, only 2 Rhode Islanders has ever finished in the top 3 in any of the competition, from my understanding. I don't know how true that is, but my daughter's one of them. She just took second in the entire country for her poetry. Her first time she ever submitted poetry. She took second place. People flipped out when they found out. We were getting text messages from all the people there Friday night. So I'm super proud of her. Number 2 in the entire country for poetry, my daughter. So
that's incredible. Congratulations to name redacted. Super proud.
Yeah. And the worst thing is that girl who won it plagiarized. I don't know if that's true, but I'm making that happen. She plagiarized. I want that like when the person gets the Olympic medal like 20 years later when they find out like the person did. That's what I'm trying to go with. Like that 13-year-old girl in Jacksonville, Florida. That's who beat her. Jacksonville, Florida girl. She plagiarized or something.
Probably Mike Perry's kid.
All right, guys. Let's go to the grade. What is your grade of the card?
I'm gonna give this one a B minus. It was probably a B plus until the main event, but it just kind of took all the wind out of my sails. And
Yeah,
I don't mind decisions. I don't mind wrestling. Like I said
me
at the
neither.
beginning of the show, it only bugged me that it took 4.5 rounds for Sandhagen to try to do more than just win rounds.
Yeah.
It got cool as soon as he like really started going for a sub.
Yeah, I'm going down to a C. Like I was looking at like a B and everything, and then the main event sucked it all the way down to a C. I might have been like a B plus. Like I thought it was a pretty good card up to that point. I if you told me which fight in the card, okay, Durden and Hadley and Jackson and Quarantillo are like the guaranteed bangers. So like leave those two out. But the rest of the 10 fights, if you said, what's the one fight like it's not going to suck? I would have thought Sandhagen and Font wouldn't have sucked. Unfortunately, it did. So that puts it down for me. So I will also give it a C. Some other people's technical wealth goes C minus. Chris Wiz goes with a D. Anthony McDonald C minus. It seemed like everyone's really upset about the grade. Hardest question of the night: who is the listener of the night, Ben?
You know what? I think tonight I'm gonna have to give it to John Butterfield. Like, I mean, anytime a Brit like feeds us up NCAA wrestling knowledge while I'm
nice
still looking
job.
it up, like
He looked it up. A nice job.
Yeah, well, then he looked it up faster than me. Like, and it was a crowded field.
Well, that's because they're ahead of you in time. It was like like when I say it, it gets to him.
Yeah, he had a 7-hour head start on
me.
me.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the one who gave me a lot of shit the whole card, but they were pretty funny. I'm gonna go with I'll throw it up there right now. I'm gonna go with Ninja Kitty.
Yeah,
Ninja Kitty was great today. So I mean, everyone's always great, but my listener will be Ninja Kitty. So there you guys have it. We've covered all 12 fights of this. We also had some commentary over on the boxing match between Jake Paul and Nate Diaz. We'll be back. We'll be previewing UFC. I don't know what is this called, but UFC RDA versus Vicente Luque. Former champions, former champion versus a top contender. In the meantime, make sure you head over to Sherdog.com for all the other stuff. You want to see the post-fight interviews, articles, who should fight next, and all that stuff. Of course, go head over to Sherdog, the top MMA website in the world, in my opinion. Please like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff. If you're listening to this the next day, thank you so much. Put a comment in there. Unfortunately, you're missing out on the live chat, which is a lot of fun, but we appreciate you listening out. So see you guys next week. Check out the preview, which will be out Monday.